Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's Kings Local School District Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff,
Here.
Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skirl,
Here.
Mr. Belfrom.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the agenda are the reports and presentations for this evening. Mr. Sears?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Belfram. We have 4 presentations tonight in our reports and presentations that we're very excited about. We appreciate all of the capacity crowd here in attendance this evening as we get to hear some awesome things that are happening in our school district. So I'm going to go a little out of order as we're navigating some travel here. So we're going to start off tonight with our wonderful students, Gabby and Taylor, are going to come up and give us the Kings High School Raise presentation.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be back. I'm Gabby and this is Taylor.
Starting off strong for our athletics, all of our fall sports have come to a close after successful seasons all around. Our winter sports are now on full practice schedules in anticipation for upcoming season debuts. Tonight, our cheer teams are fundraising at Eli's Sports Bar and Grill, complete with raffle baskets from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So if you're not doing anything after this and you don't feel like making dinner, head over there. I know that's what I'll be doing.
And then this past Thursday, we signed 6 senior girls to play their sport at a collegiate level. This includes Caroline Bobo, Elena Emerson, and Vivian Isaacs, all for lacrosse, Maeve Rubel for gymnastics, Ava Davidson for soccer, and Natalia Brignoni for softball.
Our marching band just finished another great season, as you can tell by the awesome accolades they received, which we're not surprised because we see all the hard work they put in. They wanted to thank the community administration and board for their continued support, and we want to thank them for representing our school so well.
And moving on to our academics, our Spanish National Honor Society inducted 55 new members, including Taylor and I. The ceremony was run by President Ava Gendreau and Secretary Sydney Smith. Throughout the upcoming school year, students will participate in and plan events around the community, including our first event where we'll be hosting a booth at KME's Culture Night, It's a Small World on December 3rd.
For our National Honor Society, they just inducted their biggest class of members ever in October, and they've hit the ground running, already starting to organize community and school outreach initiatives headed by Senior President Sydney Smith.
And then alongside the real presidential election, Mrs. King's government classes hosted their own mock elections where students were either political candidates, political parties, interest groups, or media outlets. We had everything a normal election would have, including debates, advertisements, and news publications. And then we wrapped up the project by other classes voting for who they think would be the best president.
In our AP Spanish language class, we're currently learning about the school systems in Spain, and we had the honor of hearing firsthand from our exchange student, friend, and classmate, Vega Lopez. In addition to presenting about her school back in the Canary Islands, she shared information about her daily life in Spain. She especially shared that on the weekends, her and her friends go to the beach, which of course we were jealous of. Our National Merit semifinalists, Derek Harris, Matthew McMahon, and Lucas Webster, have qualified this year based on their outstanding performances on the 2024 PSAT. Less than 1% of test takers receive this prestigious title. Gabby and I have a newfound appreciation for this awesome title after taking our own PSAT test.
And then engineering 2 students recently used what they learned about linear and angular velocity to design and build their own trebuchets, which are basically glorified catapults. The goal was to launch an egg as far as you could, and then I believe this year's record was 126 yards. And then in engineering 3, the students completed their annual haunted house project. This year, their theme was a haunted pirate ship. A lot of people don't realize how much effort these kids put into it. Every single aspect of the haunted house is designed, coded, and decorated by the engineering 3 students. They put a lot of time and effort into this, which I'm sure you could all tell. Mr. Shields told me you guys all went through it.
For our Spanish club, at our November meeting, we played the Spanish game Loteria, which is basically just bingo, but we think it's more fun. And the student club advisors and seniors even dressed up as the different Loteria cards for Halloween and the senior Monster Mash.
Our German club had their very own Oktoberfest this past October, and then at their most recent meeting, they learned about the German company Haribo.
Mr. Moles' employability class recently took a field trip to the city hall where they had the opportunity to gain insight into the city's operations. They attended a panel discussion featuring a diverse group of city employees, and then they broke into smaller groups for more personalized discussions with these professionals.
And then finally, the high school had their very own Be the Difference Day. This is an annual thing we do. It's led by teacher and student volunteers, and it's designed for freshmen to embrace their vulnerability as a strength and to help them come together as a class more. Every year, freshmen tell us that this is one of their favorite days of the school year.
Our ceramic students created awesome bowls for the 2024 Empty Bowl Luncheon to benefit Life Food Pantry. This year's event raised $16,000.
Our National Art Honor Society hosted a Paint Your Own Pottery Night, which was a big hit. And then right now they are also partnering with Sources of Strength, which is our mental health advocacy club at the high school, to create motivational banners for the locker rooms. Up on the screen, you can see junior Becca Reed painting one that says "You're more than your sport," just to promote how important mental health is in athletics.
And our art club members created 400 cards this year for Sisters Sending Smiles. This is a nonprofit that distributes cards to sick children and hospitals just to spread some joy, especially as we approach the holiday season.
And then our theater department is super excited to announce that it's opening week for A Midsummer Night's Dream. Our English classes will get to preview these shows this Thursday, and tickets are currently on sale for shows this Thursday through Saturday, so be sure to be there if you can. And then each month, teachers from different academic departments get to nominate a high schooler for one of the 5 pillars of race. So this month, we have Allison Sukavecki for respect, our very own Taylor Kleiss for accountability, Nathan Glassmeyer for integrity, Noah Bowman for service, and Sierra Manson for enthusiasm.
Thank you guys so much for your time. This is one of our favorite parts of the month, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Good.
It just
Yeah.
gets better
There is
Yeah.
every month.
there's no better way to start a board meeting than that. I mean, there's, what can you say? Excellent job. And we appreciate all your efforts in highlighting a lot of the great things happening at the high school. Now following up, we're gonna next move into our SHP high school design presentation. We're fortunate to have Charlie Janigan here this evening to provide the board and the community with an update on where we are for the high school design and where we stand currently with Columbia. And so we're thankful for Charlie's presence here this evening to not only update the community, but answer any board questions there may be as well. So, Charlie?
Great. Thank you very much. Tough act to follow. I'll try to bring the same energy. So a couple of updates on what's been going on. First one is that SHP and HGC, the construction manager, have been working on creating an estimate for the high school. So you may remember that we created schematic documents, which is about 1/3 through the design process. Their number and our number was extremely close. That's pretty rare these days. We're usually pretty far apart on opinions, but we were about 2% from each other, and that's a very close number to be. Overall, we are about 5.2% over the budget, and that's not shocking. That's quite the norm in most projects that we see today. And we're working closely with them to find reductions, really the things that most folks won't notice. It'll be primarily through changing materials, maybe adjusting volumes down to be things be a little bit tighter. We were very generous in some of the volumes that we incorporated into the design, and then just changing some of the features a little bit within an OSFC or OFCC funded building. There's a various options of ranges. So we kind of shot for the stars and had a lot of the high end features, and we're able to go to kind of a little bit lesser level, but still very high quality. Next is that alternates will be added for budget management. So not all the things that I just referenced will be completely eliminated. Some of them we will kind of continue to design, continue to show, and then use it as a separate kind of line item when we do the final pricing. In the event that we get really good prices, we can then incorporate those into the final solution. Columbia is moving very quickly. I know that you guys were presented kind of a first passage of the resolution last meeting, and you'll approve it tonight. Final drawings will go out Monday, a week from yesterday, and so we're collecting things throughout this week from all the disciplines. We're doing our final checks, and those will be used for the next zoning. It'll be going into zoning for Deerfield Township. We'll also be going into Warren County for the building permit, and then HGC will also use those for pricing. So that's kind of an ideal situation for the documents. So let's look at some more fun stuff. These are kind of 4 of the latest renderings. This is the main entry, and it's still to be developed a little bit further with some more features. You could imagine at that main entry, obviously some signage that might say Kings High School. You might imagine an American flag and some other features that point to the front of the building. So we've been working on a lot of the massing and the organization of the pieces, and really the materiality is really what's kind of coming out on this. And so you're seeing the rhythm with the windows and some of the spaces that are behind that. So that on the 3-story portion, the ground floor is the office, and then the upper floors are academic wings or the academic classrooms. Here's looking at the 3 stories from Columbia Road. This probably is not far off of the road, actually. So right now, today, it's the baseball field. And so you can again see what we're doing with material to kind of give it a solid, strong base with the darker color. We're breaking up the facade with that dark brick, utilizing it in the middle. There's a little bit of changing of the plane there to kind of create some shadows, and then just some diversity in the windows to kind of make it be not so monotonous. So that was through some of the discussions that we've had with the community, and students especially said they want it to look unique. This shot right here, we can stay on for a little bit. Really excites me. You can see where SHP logo is. That's really about Columbia Road right there. And so the 3-story academic wing with 2 courtyards really starts to stand out. You can see the organization of all the academics will be stacked. It's a very efficient way. It's a very compact way. And it really makes it for a nice circulation throughout the academic wing. In the distance, the kind of the swoops, you can see the theater and gymnasium, and then we'll have another angle in a second. But then beyond that is the relocated field, so you can see softball and baseball kind of at the distance, and then that tree line really starts to formulate the new border with Kings Island. So we also have the stadium here in the distance, so you can see from kind of moving around. This little tiny building right below where it says SHP is the current bus transportation building. The buses get worked on. So again, you can kind of see how we've wedged this in, and then in the distance, you can see in gray, that's the junior high that's kind of just been modeled out in mass. And then you can really kind of start to see the river valley there on the Little Miami at the top of the screen. So we're really happy with how things have come together. We're really happy how the context of overall how this is going to fit within the campus. It's going to change the overall experience for large group gatherings on the campus, for football games, for graduation, whatever things you might have here on campus, and then also indoor gatherings. The amount of parking that we're going to be able to provide with this new building. So again, we started looking at it in a plan. You started to see it in black and white, kind of boxes, and then we started to show you maybe some gray versions, and now this is with materials applied. An example of some of the changes we might make is still we're looking at kind of what we refer to as the crown on the theater and on the arena. We're going to look at that in maybe a more cost-effective manner. And when I talk about volume reduction, that might come down in height by 4 or 6 feet. That would not be very noticeable for you guys or for the community. It's more just a number that's within the construction budget that we probably can reduce to get it to budget. So we're very excited about these images, and we're excited to kind of continue the journey of the next step and evolution of this site and the site plan and the floor plan that we've developed with you guys. So next is just kind of timeline. What's going to happen next? In November, we've been working very closely with HGC on the estimate. We presented that to the administrative team yesterday, and we talked about some of those proposed changes. We're now vetting those and making sure that figuring out the cost savings that could be yielded. In December, we hope to have all those agreed upon, and we're going to get back in it and really start design development, which is kind of the second, 33rd% of the design iteration. And so that will get moving in December and complete kind of in the spring. In spring 25, we would also then roll out some early packages. So there might be definitely an early demolition and kind of site stabilization package where we start taking the existing baseball and softball fields down when the season ends, and start looking at some of the things for utilities, some temporary parking, things that need to be accommodated as a result of this new design. So things are moving. I might not be here frequently, but we've got a lot of folks talking about this job, an entire team. I've got a design email with every single designer, and I think it's up to 37 different people of all the entities: kitchen, technology, structural, site, traffic. So there's a lot of folks involved in this design. They're very excited about where we are. As far as Columbia, again, as I mentioned, we're completing the construction documents on next Monday. We will distribute those to the appropriate parties. The big milestone for you guys is really the pricing exercise. So HGC is going to take those, and I believe they're going to be soliciting pricing to try to get that before kind of the winter break on the 20th. So I expect the week of the 16th, December 16th. Hopefully they have a real good idea of the final pricing. And then we anticipate getting zoning approved in December, and then the building permit will go in December. That takes a little bit more time. We'll probably see a permit in January. So we did meet with Warren County, and we found out that the Warren County Building Department has about 100 submissions at a time for building permits. So they definitely they definitely keep busy, but they know we're coming, and they're very willing to work with us and make sure that we stay on schedule. And HGC and SHP are very motivated to obviously stay on budget. So those are our two major goals. So with that, we are going to get our CAT team together. We've been meeting with them intermittently over the past really about 15 months. And so we're promoting December 3rd, which is 2 weeks from today, 6:30 p.m., exactly 14 days from right now. We will be back in this room, and we will share some more information through this over the next 2 weeks. So we're excited where we are. I don't have all the imagery that Jenny and Gregor had at the last meeting, but I'm excited to share the great progress that's occurring. So
my only question is for anyone that may be viewing the presentation. Does volume relate to height
Yes, yes. So volume, building volume from a designer's perspective is the interior space that's encompassed within the building. So yes, not volume, but as far as vocal volume or sound volume, we're reducing the sheer size of the building, and that's less building to heat and cool. That's less building to maintain. We had some spaces that, again, as I mentioned, we kind of shot for the stars and we went very high, like in the arena. It's very, very tall. And we had the opportunity to bring it down 6 or 8 feet and still be well within the ranges that we need to be for high school competition for volleyball or other sports in there. So, yes.
And we're still under the guide of
The-
OFCC.
Yes, OFCC guidelines have kind of a minimum standard. And so, for example, the minimum standard is 25 feet for our gymnasium is the bottom of a structure. And we're a little bit above that. And so we'll kind of meet in the middle a little bit. We'll be above 25, but we won't be 40 feet, but it'll be in the middle. So,
Thank you.
yep.
So what kind of adjustment? I have a couple questions
Sure.
actually, Charlie.
Yeah.
So let me backtrack. First question is, so, and this may go to you, Mr. Sears, and you too, Mr. Morrow. For the Columbia Intermediate Edition, then we'll be waiting on getting approval of all these permits. Do we anticipate, it's holiday season, do we anticipate with their office and the amount of applications that they get that will be
Yeah.
we'll be on time in January with our groundbreaking, or Mr. Lucky?
Charlie can break out early site.
Yeah, so when we met with Warren County, as I said, they were very open to releasing things in portions. So one of the things we can do is we're going to submit next week. We'll be in their queue. Again, we might be number 101 of 100, but we can ask for a foundation or underground utility route permit only. So they can pull ours aside, review those, X amount of sheets they need, and then just cut a permit for that. Then the drawing goes back in the line, and then in February or late January, when it gets time to look at it, they'll review the remaining building and then issue a permit for the rest. So there's no hard, ideally you want to get one building permit, but we've had public entities give a foundation permit, underground permit. There's something called a shell permit and a roof permit. And then there's kind of the remaining portions, the interior. So I've seen buildings get 5, 6, 7 permits before. Ideally, we want to get one, but Warren County was very open to doing it to make sure we stayed on schedule.
I think it does us both a favor. The county graciously had us in. They won't meet. They're so busy that they typically won't take that meeting. So they open their doors to a big group of us to come in and ask some questions, great dialogue. It actually helps us both. It gets us going and it keeps them from looking at a stack this big and lets them start with a stack this big. So it's really exciting. The partnership that we have and that communication is going to be very helpful as we plot along this long race to get to the finish line.
Absolutely. Oh, and so second, I'm fixated on this 5.2%, Charlie.
Yep.
So I'm assuming, Mr. Morrow, Mr. Sears, Charlie, that 5.2% or that total allocation we have includes what we have budgeted for potential overruns.
Yes, it's $6 million and
$6 million.
it's $6 million that we have to find. The good news on the high school is there's the opportunity, because it's so large, to find it in big chunks.
Well, that's my next
And so-
question.
yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
when you're talking about like the volume of the ceiling and the gym and the theater, we're not talking about academic spaces?
No, very little in the academic space. If anything, it's just changing some material. So we had a particular metal that we specified. And for example, the construction manager said this was coming in around $60 a square foot to buy the material, to get it to site and to install it. $60 a square foot. And we could actually go to a masonry product and it was about $40 a square foot.
Okay.
So that's a savings of $20 a square foot. So we kind of know the path of travel, and let's find 5 or 10,000 square feet of that, and right there, that's $200,000 of savings. Just changing a material. We didn't change the volume, we didn't change the design, so didn't change the floor plan. So the floor to floor of the building, the ground floor to the first floor or first floor to the second floor, excuse me, is about 20 feet. And could we do it for 18 feet? So it's taking the entire building and shrinking it by 2 feet. Again, no one would notice that other than the designers and the structural folks who need to go back and make all those changes. So it's free to do them now. And so we might as well do it. And, but again, a building of this size, that might yield $500,000 in savings just by shrinking the building a little bit. So, there's a lot of opportunity on this particular site to take some big swings and some, again, most folks wouldn't even notice any of the changes.
Thank you.
I'm assuming most buildings come in over budget.
Yeah, I mean, when we go through our exercises, we want to hear everything. An example is there was a science lab that wanted to be more of collegiate level and had five hoods. And so, is that needed? You know, at X amount per hood, it adds up. And so some of the decisions we need to make might hurt. There's other opportunities to say, hey, what did we really budget and what can we afford? So it's a phenomenal building. It's going to be a state-of-the-art building. And again, these changes, these are not out of the ordinary. I'm pleasantly surprised at the 5%. You know, I've seen during COVID from 2020 till today, I've seen it where it's come in 17%, 27%. So, and that's a much harder conversation because you have to make some major changes and it really delays things. In this case, we think we can keep moving forward, kind of take the next 2 weeks to identify these, put dollars, come back here, have the administration say yes, and we're going to move forward on budget. So we're excited about that. The other thing I'll share is that HGC really did a phenomenal job on their estimate. They went to market. They talked to masons, brick masons. They talked to steel manufacturers, suppliers. They talked to 3 HVAC companies. They got quotes from 3 different HVAC companies. Say, I would budget this, I'd budget that. And they didn't take the low in every one of them. They want to kind of be in the middle because they just don't know what it's going to be like on bid day. It's also kind of a sales tool where they're saying, hey, here's what's coming. This job's going to come out to bid really in 2025 and it's going to be under construction for 30 months, 32 months. So the bidders really start to get interested and say, hey, I'm going after Kings High School. And so when it really comes time to sharpen their pencil and give the actual number, they're going to be very aggressive. So I'm very happy with where we are. We're, the phrase we keep using is just cautiously optimistic. We kind of thought it'd come in a little higher and we're pleasantly surprised at where it is right now. So. Yeah.
I'm very pleased that some of those things that we said we wanted to do, but as we're finding out too expensive, that possibly in the future, if they're still bid on, that we could say, fine, we'll pick up some of these addendums and.
The alternates it's an additive thing that we can add. We want to design a phenomenal, great building and kind of the base level. Here it is, but then it might be some additional features that are tackable. So maybe in the courtyards, we have a certain amount of furnishing options in a courtyard, but then we might add, 20% more as an alternative. So that's very common to do that for budget management purposes.
So you said that your budget came in 2% to HGC?
Yep.
What's your norm?
We don't track that on an ongoing basis because we work with so many different builders, but it's very, very common where we're 10%, 15% apart. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we say, here's ours, here's yours. And that's what we did. We put them together side by side and we identified any anomalies. And, a great example is steel. They said, oh, we're carrying $4,000 a ton. Well, we're carrying 3,500 a ton. Well, think about how much steel is going to be in a new building. It's thousands and thousands of pounds. So that adds up, that $500 delta. So we've kind of reconciled with them. We're within the tolerance of where we need to be at 2%. So, yeah. Yeah, overall, I think it's going very well with the total team, and HGC and SHP are seeing, we're in lockstep right now. So we're seeing eye to eye. Sometimes at this point, it's a very different discussion of these guys are just being extremely safe and it's too safe. And so right now, I think they're being very real. The other thing is they're really looking at the market. Not many bond issues passed for school for new school work, back in November, or I'm sorry, a couple weeks ago, excuse me. And so you guys were one of the few in March. So this window of time when we're going to bid it is going to be really, really attractive, because there's a lot of subcontractors in Cincinnati and Southwest Ohio who thrive on being a part of school jobs. Well, when there's only a few, they're going to give a good price for the ones that are out there. So I think you guys are going to, see some great pricing in about 6 months. So.
Just I'll add a couple things just quickly is, the board has made it very clear to the administration and the community, the importance of being on budget. And it's stressed in every meeting we're in. And I think, we appreciate the work that HGC and SHP are doing to adhere to that. I think our meeting yesterday, we all left feeling optimistic that we're going to get to that point. We're going to need to make some decisions on some things, but it's not going to change the overall design of the complex. So that was important for us to see, because we've kind of eliminated or stopped with some of the communication outwardly to our community until we felt a little bit more comfortable about where the budget is. And are we on? And at this point, we feel like, based on the conversations we're having, that we're going to be ultimately successful in getting to that point. And I think the Columbia exercise was a very good litmus test for us and HGC and SHP working together, is because Columbia initially came in much higher than 5%. We didn't quantify that to a percentage, but it was significantly higher than 5%. That over the course of that value engineering, some of the work we did, we were able to do that over a period of time of getting that on budget. So I think they've done a nice job of understanding the importance that the board has established that for our community. But we work on this a lot, and we will continue to work on it. And, some of the decisions we make are going to be made, but it's important for us to be on budget. But there's nothing. I verified with Charlie this morning and with our construction folks yesterday, based on where we are and how close this is, we feel really confident that we're ultimately going to get where we need to be on budget. Hence, we're going to begin some more communication involving our CAT team, et cetera, because we feel confident that we're going to ultimately get to a good spot. So we appreciate your work and the communication, but we also appreciate the board's diligence on ensuring that this project stays on budget. On time still a question, because it's still early, Mrs. Phillips, because you always ask that. But we're still eyeing that very closely. So,
yep.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have made it a habit the last few months of having one of our schools, administration and some of our teachers come to this to kind of just share and demonstrate how some of the strategic initiatives that we're working on throughout the district is carrying down into the building and classroom level. And so tonight we're going to continue with that trend. We have Principal Eric Dunn and Assistant Principal Caleb Keaton from Kings Junior High here to talk about some of the updates from the junior high, as well as some of their awesome staff that are here this evening. Love the matching gear. And we are look forward to hearing how the junior high is kind of applying some of the strategic initiatives. So, Mr. Dunn.
Great, thank you. First, I want to start off by thanking Charlie for being the buffer between the first presentation and ours. I felt like he really understood the assignment and delivered, so we appreciate that. But in all seriousness, first of all, I want to thank you guys for having us out to, especially for me to be able to share a lot of the great things that we have going on at the junior high. I'm really excited to showcase some of our awesome staff behind me. They're the boots on the ground that are working with kids every day and are making all this happen. So I'm really excited that you get to hear from them directly. I'm not going to talk a whole lot. They're going to talk a whole lot because they're the ones that are doing the work and they deserve all the credit. So just to give you a quick little history on what you're going to hear today, I have been principal at the junior high for 6 years now. Before that, came from another district where I had some pretty extensive middle level administrative experience. And one thing that those roles taught me was just the power of developing positive experiences and peak moments, especially for our middle level students. They respond really well. There's a lot of research that if you're building positive relationships, building positive experiences consistently throughout the year, all the positive impacts that has on adolescents. So what we're going to do tonight is talk about some of those positive experiences. What we did about 3 years ago, coming out of all those COVID restrictions, was sit down as a building and really intentionally put some work into consistently developing these positive experiences that happen throughout the year. So they don't just happen at the beginning of the year, they really are spaced out throughout the entire year. So the kids are always exposed to something that they're enjoying, that they're having, again, a positive experience and peak moment at the junior high. Last year, me and Mr. Keaton sat down and looked at our strategic initiatives and looked at our list of experiences that we were doing. And we really put some intentional effort into aligning these positive experiences to our strategic initiatives, in particular, our culture blueprint and Power 5 skills. So that's what you're going to hear tonight, is just what's going on at the junior high, how we've aligned that to the strategic initiatives. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the esteemed Caleb Keaton, our assistant principal, and he's going to talk about the culture blueprint that we have going on at Kings Junior High School.
Yep. Thanks again for having us. Caleb Keaton, this is my second year as the assistant principal at the junior high, and just really enjoying it and the experience. So if you don't mind, obviously this is a document you guys have seen before, our culture blueprint, something that I am very passionate about. Culture is something that we continuously have to work on and improve, but kind of a quote in our culture blueprint that I'm kind of highlighting with our staff for this presentation is: culture is what we believe, how we behave, and the experiences our behavior produces for others. I'm really proud about the experiences that our behaviors that we're trying to produce for our students and for our staff members. So the first thing that I would actually like to touch on is our PACT, our PBIS program, which, as you can see, it's been around for a little while at the junior high, stands for Pride, Attitude, Commitment, and Togetherness. So something that, again, providing some intentionality around in our building is Mr. Dunn and myself have tasked our teams with focusing quarter by quarter one of those letters so that we can provide some intentionality around teaching what that looks like. So as you can see, quarter one, of course, we focused on pride. So to the left are like some questions and discussions, and to the right in that box, you can see some of the small things that teams were doing on their own. It looks different from team to team, but where they really emphasized on pride, whether it's even just as simple as students now like kind of staying after and cleaning up in the cafeteria. We had teams create t-shirts around this concept for their team to have pride in their team. And what does that look like? What does it mean to have good pride? And how does that look? You know, things for their lockers and all those. And now that we're in quarter two, we've kind of placed an emphasis on attitude. So we're excited about that. Something else I'd like to share is that we had our first annual fall tailgate event. So this is actually something that spurred a little bit out of PTOs, an idea that we kind of all took and ran with, which ended up being really, really awesome and exciting. I think we gave out like over 300 pieces of pizza. Kids stayed after school. We got to support a volleyball, a football, and a tennis match all at one for our junior high, kind of creating that tailgating experience for our kids. There's a hype video that we won't watch, but we've been kind of trying to, again, highlight some of those cool experiences that we're doing for our kids. And I'm really proud about all that going forward. So next, SLT is going to present. Ms. Hawk and Ms. Adams.
I'm Amber Hawk, and I am one of the SLT advisors, as well as I teach 7th and 8th grade Project Lead the Way.
I am Autumn Adams. I am also a co-advisor of SLT, and I teach 7th grade language arts.
So we have been student leadership team advisors for a few years now together, and we're slowly learning what works in the junior high and what doesn't, as far as numbers wise and commitment levels for middle school students. And so we've done a few things already the beginning of the year. We helped with the fall tailgate. Our kids did temporary tattoos at the tailgate so that the kids could come up for free and get a King Strong tattoo. We've also done spirit weeks. So we just had our first spirit week. It was leading up to our dance last Friday. So we had an Olympic themed dance. So each day had a different spirit week or a spirit day. And then we keep track as far as which impact class has the highest level of participation. And we keep, Mr. Keaton created a trophy that there's a packed trophy that gets passed around. It's a repurposed trophy that the art Miss Hagan redid for us. So it's red, white, and blue, and it's a packed trophy. We also did a canned food drive, and we kept track and made it the 7th grade blue team with the 8th grade blue team was like a team, and then 7th and 8th grade red, 7th and 8th grade white. And we kept track. We had like counters in the cafeteria at lunch that we kept track of which team was in the lead. And that led up to our pack day. Pack day help, our kids did kind of the behind the scenes work. They like to do a lot of that kind of stuff and be involved. We also help PTO with our pack store. We just had that a couple weeks ago. So our kids made the signage for that, helped kind of patrol when the kids came in to shop with their packed points. They like to help with that. Do you want to talk about the dance and the volleyball or keep going? So we also had our first dance last Friday. We had over 100 kids that came to the dance. It's right after school. It's from 2 to 3:30. We have a DJ, we have pizza, chips, water, all of that kind of stuff. It's really just like a social event that the kids can come hang out. There's no dressing up for it. It's just come as you are, be silly with your junior high friends in the gym and dance and have fun. And then in February, we'll be having a school-wide volleyball tournament where they can organize a team and come after school and then they play. We did it last year for the first time and it was very successful. The kids had a great time with it.
Never been too tall. Hello, my name's Andy Schatzel. I teach 7th and 8th grade phys ed at the junior high. One of the things that we do at the end of the first quarter is called Pack Day. It's where we get together and we kind of reinforce, reteach everything about PACT. And it's a way just for the kids to celebrate and get together and all their accomplishments of the first quarter. Usually how the morning starts out is each individual team. So again, kind of like they were talking about, we have 7 red, 7 white, 7 blue, 8 red, 8 white, 8 blue. They have their own particular activities that they do. I've seen teams do cooperative games, learning the fight song, going through individual lessons of what PACT stands for and how they can go about and just really enforcing what PACT is and why we believe in that. And then as the day goes on, during lunch and impact, we have speakers that usually come in. Most of the time they are somebody affiliated with Kings. We have had people outside, but they really come in and kind of talk about their life story, what they've done and relate to the kids. Because they sat in their shoes or they've been through certain things to just keep them inspired and keep them bought into what we're trying to prove and get to them to learn as being at Kings Junior High. As the day goes on, we get into our school-wide assembly. It's really neat because the band comes in. So all the teams come in and we sit by your individual team. Mr. Keaton this year got us all team flags. So there's usually a kid in the front row waving that flag around, going nuts, getting their team all jacked up. It's a lot of fun. It's great. You know, it reminds you of high school basketball games where these kids are really buying in and chanting 8 red, you know, all that, just getting after it. The band will play for us and they start off with our fight song and that's how we start off the day. And it's a lot of fun. The kids get into it. And then we have a dodgeball tournament that students are allowed to sign up for. They're not forced to play in it. They're allowed to sign up for it. And as you can imagine with middle school kids, that gets very intense. It's a lot of fun, though. You see them chanting and raving and doing all that kind of stuff. This year, Mr. Keaton brought in an awesome game called the mattress surfing game. And we actually had the staff participate in that. And that was one of my favorites. We racing against the kids and you're running and diving on a mattress and flying down the floor and the first get past. The volleyball line won. And the crowd, the kids are just going nuts. They think it is awesome to see their teachers out there making those connections and doing those things with them. And then that brings us to the afternoon where we are outside. And myself and another teacher, along with the help of all the other staff, bring in a lot of yard games like can jam, cornhole,
things like that we have set up out on the field. We have Kona Ice out there where each team has their own designated time to go get it. And it's just a day that they get to spend making connections with their classmates and, you know, bringing everybody together and just having an awesome time out there. It's a lot of fun. So that's Pack Day. That's what we do. And then as we go throughout the year, we have more events that we pull together as well, where we get in the gym and have assemblies and have a lot of fun out there. All right, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, I'm Katie Schaefer. You can leave those pictures up there because I have the other stuff. So I'm the lucky one that got to take over the DC trip from Brent Allen, who did it for years and years. So I felt a little bit of pressure taking that over now that I'm a few years in, getting a little more comfortable with it. It certainly is an undertaking. Thanks, Mike. We have had a lot of questions between the two of us on how to do things and how to stick to it. But this is really a great example in the junior high of how we're touching on all 5 of those Power 5 skills with the kids. The first one is communication. We really are ingraining in them before we travel what kind of respect is involved when you are going to visit these national monuments, especially places like the Vietnam Wall, where every time we are there, we see people that are actively paying their respect and mourning the loss of family members. And so when you bring 250 to 300 8th graders through any place to get them in line with the amount of respect that's involved in that, they impress us every time that we go through that. With critical thinking, we're encouraging that curiosity and that research aspect. All of our ELA classes at some point during the 8th grade year study Anne Frank. And so when we visit the Holocaust Museum, it is a self-paced tour for them. And so the parts of that experience that stick out more to them that they're able to connect with, it's a very profound experience for a lot of them. And it also makes a cross-curricular connection for them in both ELA and history. A lot of problem solving on this trip. There's a lot of creativity. We have a very set itinerary and we aim every year to stick right to it. And something happens every time where we just make decisions on the fly. And it's showing the kids that, yes, it's great to have a plan, but it's also good to be adaptable. And sometimes the greatest things come out of unexpected changes in that. Tons of collaboration and teamwork go on with that. I would say the biggest way that collaboration plays a role comes in a very unexpected place. Kids are allowed to pick their own roommates for the trip, which for 90% of them is a great thing. For 10% of them, it's very anxiety inducing. It's a lot of drama with different changes in friend groups, but it's also an opportunity for some kids. There's 4 kids in a room, and sometimes naturally we have 2 or 3 that come together. And the conversations that I get to have with some of these kids in including that 4th person, most of the time, all I have to say to them is, hey, listen, I'm glad that you 3 get to be together. Please put yourself in this person's shoes just for a minute and think about what it would be like to go away from home for 3 days and not have people that are asking you to room with them. And every time they really have risen to that occasion. And when we're talking about 13 and 14-year-olds, you go into that a little scared and I come out pleased and happy every time. This also is giving them a lot of college, career, and life ready. One of the things that we task them with every time we go to lunch or dinner is we give them money, hand them the cash. We give them a time to be back and we say, you budget your time, you budget your money, make sure that you can eat and get through the line and know where we are meeting and when we are meeting. And usually after the first time we do that, they're all great because this trip wouldn't be possible if we couldn't function as a group of almost 300 getting through places. And if we waste too much time counting heads and tracking people down, it just doesn't work. So these kids really are putting a lot of these 21st century skills into action. And it's a great experience for them. The pictures up there will show you all the fun they have. We wear them out, so their parents are happy with that. I think it's money well spent. And it's also been an opportunity. We have KEA that sponsors a scholarship for a student every year. Our PTO sponsors a couple students. I reach out to the community and have found a couple businesses that are willing to do that. And so there's a lot of ways that we show our love and support for this field trip. And so we appreciate the support that you guys give it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Nichols. Amber Hawk and I are Career Center teachers. We are satellite teachers at the junior high, and we both teach Project Lead the Way, which is an engineering STEM-based program. It's backed by Chevron, Toyota, Verizon, Lockheed Martin. So one of the things we really like to do is bring in experiential learning. Our classes also will feed into a lot of your high school classes, the engineering, the IT, the biomedical program, and the architecture program at the high school. We had our 7th graders visit Kings Island's engineering team just last week. So they spent 2 hours with the engineering and the maintenance guys at Kings Island. They got a behind the scenes tour, a safety tour. So they really got to see, local community businesses and what they do in the classroom being used every day in real life. Robotics went to Sinclair Manufacturing Day, which is also one of our partners right down the road. We have a robot on the athletic department that does all the striping autonomously for lacrosse and baseball and football. So the maintenance guys loved having the kids out. They showed them how to work it. They got to play with it, and it didn't have a name. So Mr. Baker wanted the kids to come up with a name. They came up with Sir Paints a Lot. And tomorrow, Sir Paint a Lot gets knighted because he's a sir and he's going to be a knight. So the kids are going to go out tomorrow. They made a little sticker for him. And so he will be an official knight tomorrow. It was fun to have Charlie here because SHP is actually going to come visit the 7th grade architect class. And just today they had to do a flooring budget project. So they had to calculate area of a room and a house, find some flooring at Lowe's, calculate how much it would be to put in that flooring. And guess what? Most of them were over budget. So they had to go back through and say, hey, we can't put marble tile in our entire house. It's just not going to work. So having experiences like our local community businesses come in, it just gives so much more meaning to our classes. We also had House in a Box, which is a female veteran-owned company. And they have a shipping container house out at the Career Center. So they give us a virtual tour. The trades out there will also use it. Where they're going to get a blank shipping container, and the trades, HVAC, the construction guys, they're going to make a second one for her to sell. So it's been a really fun partnership with the Career Center, Project Lead the Way, and Kings.
And then lastly, this is something that I started doing last year with our staff. We're calling it Thankful Thursdays. It's another way for us to invest in our culture with our staff of ways to connect with each other. So each Thursday we are doing a task, and if teachers complete them, they put in a little token, and we've had businesses donate, little rewards that we'll share with them at a staff meeting. Just love the way that we're able to provide these experiences for our kids. I'm really passionate about it. I mean, we were already today talking about Perfect North that will happen in February, where all our kids get an opportunity to go to Perfect North. Like these experiences, this experiential learning. I'm just really proud of our staff for working so hard to put it all together to provide, the best that we can for our students. And of course, we're blessed to be at Kings with great families and great businesses and everyone that we can all kind of put it together as a community. So thank you for letting us share, but this is the junior high, and this is just a little bit that we wanted to share with you guys tonight. Thanks again for your attention.
Picture.
Oh yeah, get the shirts. Someone famous designed them. Oh, sorry. How did I get stuck up front? That's perfect. Oh, sideways.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And I can say from firsthand experience, I appreciated the DC trip and the break. Yes, you are doing the Lord's work.
Okay, last but not least, we are really fortunate this evening to have a presentation about some of the career services and workforce development going on at Kings High School. We're fortunate with us tonight to have Riley O'Grady, the Executive Director of Lead Training, and Curtis Keller, who is our Career Services Coordinator at Kings High School. And they're going to talk to you about some of the great opportunities we have that this will springboard a future presentation for our internship group, and we're gonna have some students come in. Don, when did we, is that, we haven't decided, January? January, we're gonna have some of our students come in who've completed the first semester of our internship program to present to the board, but really fortunate to have Riley and Curtis here this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. And I'm just excited to be here. And I was thinking when I was sitting there and hearing the other presentations too, that to be honest, I work with a lot of different school districts, but Kings, with what you guys are doing here specific to experiential learning and the number of people that are passionate about making this happen, it's a big difference because a lot of the schools come to me and they say, what are you guys doing that's special over here? And a big piece is the people and being intentional about the growth for what we're doing with career services, workforce development. And I'm really excited to walk you guys through that today, but mostly to let Curtis walk you through that today because he's the one that's primarily at the high school. Curtis?
Well, thank you for that intro, Riley. Quick agenda for this portion of the presentation. I'll kind of give an overview of like what is the Knight's career experiences, what is career services, what does that look like day to day at the high school? You know, what are we doing to support students? What does that look like day to day? We'll go through some specifics on some of our programs, but sorry, I'm trying to find the right balance here. And then we'll go over some outcomes, you know, kind of what has been going on to this point in the school year, and then what's the vision for spring 2025? How are we going to capitalize on, you know, some of the momentum from this fall, but also, again, the vision of how are we going to do things better for spring?
So this is just my sixth sense of humor. I like to show this graphic in a lot of ways, but frankly, why are we even doing this? Why do we even care beyond academics? If we're not doing these other experiences, if we're not doing career readiness, then obviously the dramatic graphic of students falling off after they graduate. And I'm not talking the ones that have the parental support or other things, but especially the ones that are more at risk and don't have those connections, don't have those things. So over the last few years, for us to grow over 500 partnerships with different people, that's huge compared to even like, I don't care what they say at Mason, like that's huge. And over, I think it's 174 unique internships and pre-apprenticeships that we've developed. That's huge. So the whole goal is that way we're doing these different pieces and components to make sure that they're actually prepared for what's next. And on the next slide, we get into that a bit. High level, we want every student at Kings to graduate with at least one career experience, which is super achievable, to be honest. That could be like a job shadow, it could be a tour, an internship. And then they also have a plan. I'm not just saying that they broadly know what they want to do, but they're actually enrolled, enlisted, employed, and they know how to activate that plan with purpose. Curtis?
Well, and to that point, I wanted to mention that a plan does not necessarily mean that a student knows what major they're going to be at college. A plan means that maybe they have the major determined, maybe they have the school in mind, but they have a specific career in mind. And I think that's what we need to push our students to do. A lot of the times when we think of, you know, being prepared for life after graduation, if we have the college and the major in mind, then we think that the job is done. There's a lot of things that we can do to make sure that even those students that have the majority of their plan to help them feel more prepared for, again, this transition into life after graduation, because it's tough. So anything that we can do to prepare our students, the better. So career services, I'll introduce myself a little bit first. So I've been here at Kings High School for the past 2 school years, actually starting in January 2023. And it's been working with our seniors in our senior only program called Career Quest, which we'll talk about in a later slide. But I'm a huge advocate for experiential learning. I've seen it anecdotally, again, working with our seniors for the last 2 years, what, you know, one bit of what one experience can do for a student for their motivation, but also my research, I just graduated in spring from UC from a Master of Arts in Applied Psychology. My research the entire time was on the impact of experiential learning and the benefit that it has for students in terms of their ability to sustain in difficult careers. So in my case, it was sustaining in STEM, but in short, I'm a believer in experiential learning, and I'm really grateful that I get to kind of see that impact on a daily basis for students. So for career services, they're basically main two buckets for supporting students, helping them get prepared and then helping them to explore. So helping them get prepared, make sure that they're ready to engage with organizations, make sure that they're ready for the workforce. I'm not just going to send them off on job shadows or, internship interviews when they're not prepared, but then also exploration. So matching students with the existing opportunities that we have and aligning that with their interests and plans. Those are kind of the two buckets of services. But also for the teachers. The teacher, a lot of times they're looking for ways to, how do I bring experiential learning into my class? But frankly, they don't have the time of day to, again, find those opportunities to coordinate for them to come in. So they would reach out to me and say, hey, Curtis, I'm looking for a speaker in X, Y, and Z industries. Can you bring them into my class? So it's supporting the students, but also the educators when they want to bring in that experiential learning. And then the why, I mean, again, it sounds like we're aligned here. The experiential learning is a good thing, but we want our students to have a plan after graduation, and anything that we can do to help with that plan, we should do it. Just some quick examples of when students would actually go to career services. Maybe they have an upcoming interview that they want a refresher on. Maybe they've never built a resume before and they need to start from square one. Maybe they're a student that's interested in a specific career plan, but they want to shadow it before, majoring in it and determining that that's the path for them. So again, a few examples of when students would come to career services. And I showed this graphic to actually the senior class when I presented to them, because I think it was a little bit ambiguous for them of like, when would I come see you? When would I come find you if I need help? These are the ways. And as I'll talk about and as we'll see on kind of the outcomes to date, but that's growing quickly. The first couple of weeks of the school year was trying to convince students that we have opportunities here in career services. We can help you, but now I don't think that there's a period that goes by where a student doesn't pop in or a counselor refers a student to me. So it's growing quickly, which was very good to see. I was a little bit nervous at the beginning of the school year, but that's definitely picked up. So as I mentioned, Career Quest, been doing this for 2 years now on the third year, senior only program. There are two main pieces of Career Quest, but this is primarily for the students that aren't exactly sure what their next step is after graduation. So finding students for this specific program, I work with the counselors, so they'll refer students when they have their graduation plan meeting. If they meet with a student and maybe there are some holes in their plan, or maybe it's a student that has a plan, but they'd really benefit from some job shadowing to maybe reassure them that that's the right pathway for them, they refer them to me. We either get them set up with those experiential learning opportunities, or in this case, Career Quest. We had the kickoff last week. There are 36 students starting in Career Quest. That will likely grow because I got 4 referrals just today from Ms. Coleman. So Career Quest, and this is the biggest number that we've had at the start. Last year it was 25. Again, now it's 36, and it's growing day by day. So really excited about the group that we have this year for Career Quest. And we always have some really great stories come out of this. These are students that, again, they'd really benefit from some extra support, some extra career planning, and some guidance. So we're excited to kind of report on those outcomes and how that's going throughout the school year. Well, we saw the picture in the top left. That was the visit to the city of Cincinnati when we got the employability classes out there. And that bottom left here, that's a picture of the internship students. So they went out with Riley to Newport Aquarium, and they got to, what was it, marine biologist they got to talk to?
Not willing to talk to them, oddly. So we had someone from the dive team, and then they got to see me in the tank, which felt really odd to me because this is like what I do for fun. So to like bridge those worlds, I was like, I don't know if I can handle this, but they had a great time. So the gentleman walking them around, he is very knowledgeable about the aquarium, and they said it was just so amazing to see the behind the scenes and to understand what it's like to actually work there. So.
Up there in the top middle, we took the biomed students out to AtriCure for their version of Manufacturing Day, which is actually a biomedical focused manufacturing day. at the middle bottom there, we had the city of Cincinnati come out and they did a lunch and learn. They presented to the employability classes, and that was before we actually went out to City Hall a couple of weeks later. Bottom right there, we have our visit to UC Health, where we got to check out their radiology department in late September. That was super cool. We took the biomed classes there as well. And then in this top right, I think this is a really good example to highlight of kind of like my vision for, and hopefully our collective vision for, career services in the spring. I've been doing these site visits through classes. So if I have a specific experience and it aligns curricularly with a certain class, I'll say, hey, ex-teacher, would you like to take your students on this visit? Top right to LCNB, that's not what I did. I use all of the wonderful data that we have now on School Links, and I was actually able to target students specifically for this opportunity. So I put out a blast to the high school and said, students that are interested in careers in finance, we have a site visit to LCNB to learn about careers in finance, get to network with individuals in that profession. And so it was a more targeted effort. So instead of just taking whole classes on field trips, these are site visits. These are specifically for students interested in these careers. So being more intentional about these experiences, I think, is really the vision going forward. So instead of taking again, sometimes it's the easier way out, is inviting classes. Like, we want to have these experiences targeted for the right students. So if they're missing 2 hours of the day for academics, that it's for a very specific reason, that they're going to check out a career that they've stated an interest in.
I heard really good feedback from a student on that one.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Evidently, whoever they led that discussion, he said, he pointed to one kid. He said, I just can tell you're so interested, and gave him his business card and said, reach out to me. And like, really made a professional connection, which was really cool.
Well, and the great part about LCNB is that they have a whole team of like individuals that are open to mentoring. So I have a couple of students that we're working with to get them connected with some of the people that were on that site visit, but I'm glad to hear that there was positive feedback there. That was a super cool site visit. Quick outcomes to date. What have we been up to in the fall? So there have been 24 presentations throughout a bunch of different classes. I can't read all of them, but we had biomed, employability, brought some into engineering, comp sci, math 12, AQR. So there are a lot of teachers that are getting involved at the beginning of the school year. It was the employability, and then that was about it. But again, that list is growing, and more teachers are reaching out on a daily, weekly basis as they hear about these experiential learning opportunities to see what they can get in their classes. So a couple of examples, like we had Comey and Shepard come in to talk to the senior classes about buying your first home. This wasn't even about like careers in real estate. This was more about the basics of buying your first home. We had First Financial come in to talk to the personal finance classes, and they did a little supplementary activity for one of the Dave Ramsey units that they're doing in those personal finance classes. And then Premier Health came in to talk to the biomed classes about their high school opportunities last week. But just some examples of what those presentations actually look like. And then in terms of the out of school activities, some of the site visits that we highlighted before, UC Health, City Hall, LCNB. And then looking ahead to the spring, heading out to SHP and HGC, we'll bring the architecture classes and then a few targeted students based on that data from School Links. We have Atrium Medical Center hiring event that we had quite a few students from Kings attend last year, and that's going to happen again this year in the spring. So just looking ahead, we have lots of experiential learning, lots of site visits coming up for students. And my goal is to be more like better at targeting students for these right opportunities instead of just filtering these things through class. And again, now we have the data that I feel comfortable in doing that. Oh yeah, that's my goal. Quality over quantity. We want to increase these things, but again, we want to have the right experiences. I don't want to have a weekly field trip that is pulling students out of class for no reason. We want to make sure these things are targeted. Oh yeah, these are some upcoming activities. In January, Kroger's going to bring their mobile pharmacy lab on site. Elite Welding Academy is going to come in December, so students will actually get to do a little bit of hands-on welding outside in the parking lot at the high school, actually. And then working with Ford to put together an additive manufacturing activity with their students. We have a meeting tomorrow with Mr. Shields and them, but exciting things coming in spring. Just wanted to put some things on your radar. I think this is the really special part about career services is that I'm there 3 days per week. I'm there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30, students can come into my office whenever they want for support. So For those one-on-one meetings, again, this has picked up quite a bit in the past couple of weeks, but there have been 177 unique student meetings with 75, oh, it's probably up now because I put together these slides on Thursday, but lots of students coming in to career services now. And this has ranged all the way from like just checking in on how a specific job shadow went to like a full, 2-period long resume workshop. It's really spanned. So what I'm going to be doing is diligently tracking what services are students using when they're coming into career services so that we know what are essential functions for a career services office, and then what would be like nice extra additional student or things for students to have that are not necessarily essential. So I think that will help us to inform, again, what do we need for career services moving forward, but also like what kind of supports are our students actually taking advantage of. And then also for shadowing, I mean, that's slow but steady. 14 shadows have been coordinated so far in fields, 5 students in nursing, some engineering shadows, 3 of those, 2 in vet sciences, and then skilled trades. We have 5 students next semester participating in a skilled trades workshop, which is semester-long experience for those seniors. So, and again, if you want to click, the goal is to increase those shadowings. And for those one-on-one meetings, those will naturally increase just as the school year goes on, especially as I'm meeting with those seniors in Career Quest. But in the ideal, we'll get some more sophomores and juniors into career services so that we can start rolling these experiential learning opportunities back grade levels. Again, in the ideal, it's nice we can get our seniors out there, but if we can get our sophomores and juniors out there, that's where I think we'll really start to see a lot of progress. Oh, I'm going to have trouble reading this. So in the fall, because I didn't really have a good sense of kind of what our student population was interested in, I tried to hit all of the main staples. So we have different themed months. Again, each month there's a theme, and we'll try to bring in guest speakers and experiential learning opportunities in those specific fields. For data collection, getting a hang of school links and how to use all of the trove of data that exists on there for targeted experiential learning opportunities. And then for Career Quest, I met with all the seniors. Again, we have 36 students, up to 40 now as of today, and it's growing. For spring 2025, again, the focus is target experiences rather than filtering these things through class. I want to be able to target students for these things, and I'll be using school links for that. Stay tuned on how that goes, getting the sophomores and juniors, especially on the school links, but the seniors, they've been using school links quite a bit throughout this school year. So they should all be very familiar with the platform, be familiar with how to find the opportunities. So that's my big goal, is to have all of these experiences live in one place so that students can go directly there and they can see all of what's going on in the spring semester and what's upcoming and can sign up for those things.
Question.
Yes.
School Links, I know it's new this year and it is a really nice platform, but at what point do students log in for the very first time?
They log in during the advisory bells. So the counselors, they have every couple of weeks, they have specific agenda items that students are supposed to be working on, and it's broken down by grade level. So the seniors have certain things they need to be doing during advisory, juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and so on. So in theory, everyone should have logged in at once by now, but what we'll do to kind of get students to think about the opportunity board is insert that as a part of the advisory lesson. So in December, there will be an advisory lesson where students, especially juniors and seniors, have to go on the opportunity board and find an opportunity. So that will get them to, again, be thinking experiential learning. They know where those things live, and it'll be in school links, which is what they're already using.
Awesome.
I think that hits on a lot of the highlights. I tried to run through this quickly. I know we're over time, so thank you. But
So one more question, like how do we get him 5 days a week? Yeah.
good question. That is a good question.
It's a good question.
That's a good goal for us, I think.
I mean, I can just tell that you would be somebody the kids would want to trust and talk to. It's a great resource.
Well, I appreciate that. And I really do feel super grateful. Like it's really cool to see on a daily basis, like what these little experiential learning opportunities can do for students. Again, I've seen it anecdotally, but research says the same thing. It's experiential learning is super beneficial, and it's only better when we roll it back earlier and it's more sustained and more deliberate. So I'm glad to hear.
Very cool.
think one of the, to answer your question this way, Mrs. Groff, is that, as we continue to design programming and look at the future of learning for students, we have to be very calculating about how we support kids moving forward. And so, we always say that, like, from a staffing standpoint, we respond to the enrollment. We respond to the enrollment, right? As the data continues to support the need for this work and for additional students to be supported, then we as a board and administration need to have the discussion about how we respond to the enrollment. So the data is important for us to continue to track, and you guys are doing a great job with that, because then it's able to quantify a justification for more experiences. So we're looking that way. I think you can see the value, you can see the benefit, and you can see in year 2-ish, we've had Career Crest for a little while, but that's growing. But the intentionality of the future of learning is, we've said this a lot, it's not just the academic piece. We have a good academic product. We're going to continue to try to grow and get even better. But it's our job is to expose kids to opportunities for learning beyond the walls of our district, so that they can make conscious, effective, informed decisions for what they want to do beyond the walls of our district. And so you have to provide support for them. And I think that's what these guys are doing. And we appreciate Riley and especially Curtis as he's navigated into this world. But this is really important work. That is awesome for our kids. And I think we're continuing to want to grow it. So long answer to your question, but this is exciting stuff. I think that the board's been really excited about some of the internship things. It's important to know that it's broader. That's one component of career services. So we're excited about that. So. Anyone else?
I'd just like to revisit it in January or February and see what the numbers are. I'm going to do my best to make you very busy as well. So 40 kids seems a little low. So with this,
I mean, I see the benefit obviously for seniors, and it's great, but I mean, the more juniors and sophomores we can get in front of you, even better.
Absolutely.
Because the earlier they can figure that out, then they can choose their classes properly, and then they can figure out, is the career center the right path? Which path is the right path? But you need to get in touch with them earlier.
And
Which
so,
I know that's the ultimate goal.
yes,
But
surely. And even at the end of this year, it's not the case that it's, only seniors come into career service. All the students come in. It's just the seniors, again, to your point, closer to graduation, probably get priority on those things. But yes, absolutely.
Yep, it's great. Thank you.
great.
Thank
you both.
Thank you, Riley. Thank you, Curtis.
Before we move forward, I just want to thank the board's patience with, it's important for us to continue to demonstrate some of the great work. We know that went longer than normal, but we appreciate you engaging into that. We're proud of some of the work we're doing, but I think it's important moving forward to continue to show you can hear it from us, but when you see it from other folks, it's really important. So thanks for hanging in there. We'll continue to have these, but I think it's an important piece of our board meetings to let our community know kind of what's happening. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing those presentations to us. It's always good to know what's have the pulse and know what's going on and see the successes for sure. So that next on the agenda is public participation, which it looks like this evening we have no public participation. So next would be the approval items for the treasurer. Have that right? Yep. All right. I'm getting used to my bifocals. So on the consent agenda, we have 5 items: the minutes for the work session in October, the regular meeting, financial items, the 5-year forecast, and the public records log. Do we have any further questions for Mr. Morrow?
I wanted to re-point out one thing on number 3, the financial items for anyone who may be listening this week, but not last week. We have a whole web page about fiscal responsibility. It includes all of our information about our grants, cost savings initiatives, revenue generation initiatives. The link is here. It's through the treasurer's page of the website. I just wanted to make sure we keep pushing that out as a place where the community can see kind of what's happening in the finance world of the district. Also, on number 4, the 5-year forecast, I loaded a presentation in here. I'll walk through it. The board has had the 25-page detail that I kind of touched on some highlights last week, so you've had a week to look at that. But I'll just walk through this and point out some of the things that I wanted to make sure that the board caught and that the community gets to see. So 5-year forecast, what is it? I'm trying to project the district's financial future for 5 years using the best information I have today. You'll see at the very end of this, we were pretty close compared to the last time this was presented. The trend here, I won't read the rest of this, but that's really the whole goal of this, is where are we headed? Once again, I'm going to start at kind of big picture and then drill down a little bit deeper. This is from the website that I just kind of called out in the section before. Revenue generation and cost saving initiatives, totaling over $7 million in the past 3 years. So like to definitely point that out. Really proud of it. And also wanted to point out this isn't affecting the classroom. These are things that we've done without having to affect what we're doing with kids every day. So kind of the highest level, how much money do we have? It's really the highest level as we kind of work our way down. In Kings, we've historically had very low cash balances compared to what we actually spend in any given year. To kind of quantify that with the most recent data available, 93% of districts in Ohio had more cash relative to their spending than Kings. So we run that very tight. It's one of the reasons that this exercise and the monthly updates to the board are so important, because any kind of dramatic change could have a big impact on our cash, which is our savings account essentially. Cash on hand, Government Finance Officers Association 60-day minimum is their recommendation. You can see far left, that was June 30th, 2024. And we're on the decline of that. As a levy district, you pass a levy, you build your cash a little bit, then you start to spend it down as a locally funded levy district. So it just gives a nice kind of picture of our cash balance starting to dwindle. Go ahead. Couple more big picture. What's not changed, we continue to grow, which not every district in Ohio continues to grow. Not every district in the area continues to grow. Personnel costs continue to rise. We'll get into that a little bit more. And then also our purchase services. This is one that really stands out. I believe I pointed it out last time, but if you look at that bottom bar graph, that's our purchase service by year. That's primarily our student-specific costs, our transportation, our utilities. From 2020 to 2022, we went up $600,000 in this category, 3% a year, kind of like inflation. From 2022 to 2024, we went up $4.6 million in 2 years. So you're talking about a $4 million difference when you look at 2 years versus 2 years. So that's one of those things that it's hard to project that number rising that rapidly. We saw a little bit of slowdown so far this year, so we're not rising at quite that high level, but we've built in some pretty substantial increases. You can see the bars stepping up pretty quickly. We'll get into that a little bit more. Go ahead. So what has changed? Very little big picture. Our expenses continue to rise faster. So we're doing all this great work as a board, and it's the board's initiative for us to find revenue and find cost savings, but our expenses still rise faster. Another thing to point out on here, high property value increases, 27.3%. We had Matt Nolan, county auditor here. Great for the community. Your houses are worth more. You have more equity in your home, but you do have an increase in property taxes, but it's small compared to the 27% increase in equity, 5% on average. Since our biggest driver of revenues is property tax, if people's bills are going up little, we're not seeing large revenue increases because of that. It's great for the community that their property taxes aren't going up greatly because of this, but it causes an issue for us and our revenues. Also point out the bottom, said this last week, but we actually issued bonds to have money to build the new high school that SHP talked about earlier, and the Columbia edition. We have the money in a bank account, but we can't use any of it for salaries and benefits and purchase services. That can only be used for the facilities. It's one of those things that I think we need to keep stressing that, yes, a levy was passed for facilities and bond issue in the spring, but that's only to be used for facilities, no operations. Won't dwell on this too much. I kind of talked about it in the last, but you can see our valuation in Kings was $1.2 billion in 2023. We're projecting that to rise all the way up to 1.6 billion in 2028. And then the bar on the right is our property tax revenue estimates. So you can see you're rising substantially in values, but little in revenues. And that's because people's tax rates go down. So as your home value goes up, your tax rates go down, so you don't pay as much in taxes. Once again, great for the community. I will point out that with this revaluation, our actual collections is going down 7.4 mils. That's bigger than the operating levy that we passed in 2022. So it just kind of shows that as levies are passed in a district like Kings, that those collections go down, so we don't actually see big increases in revenue. Try to say that and look at it in multiple different ways because it's kind of a complex idea. State funding, we saw an increase last year. First we'd seen in a while, which was fantastic. Our state advocacy community group was excellent in working with the district to try to advocate for that money. But you can see now we're projecting it to actually go down for the next 3 years. So as our expenses go up, our second biggest revenue source goes down. That's a tough formula, I like to say. And that's just because we're a wealthy district and we continue to look more wealthy. So the state says, we don't need to give you as much. You guys can pay for yourselves. And also that second bullet point, future guarantee district. That means that as of 2027, under the state funding formula, they're giving us more than they think they should be. So here, Kings, you should be getting X, but we're going to go ahead and bump you up to this artificial number because that's what we gave you in the past. So it just shows that the trend is that the state continues to tell us that you deserve less from us because you can pay for yourself. It's tough. It's tough. Personnel. So we're getting into the kind of weeds a little bit here. So when we build this out and build projections of our expenses, you're adding in that our staff gets more experienced, which means they get paid more just based on being more experienced. And also we have union negotiated agreements. And along with that are the associated benefits such as health insurance that we have been very fortunate has not gone up at market trends in the past couple of years, but our group is having a tough year compared to the last two. So I'm really expecting an increase for 2026. And then also all the fringe benefits like retirement and Medicare all go up as your salaries go up. So you see kind of a natural increase in those expenses. Purchase services, touched on this earlier, the kind of huge jumps we've seen. We've had high student needs, and these services are getting more expensive, more faster than inflation. Transportation, the board requested that the administration look for alternative transportation rather than our current company, Peterman. They offered us a 10% increase, and they were still $1 million plus lower than anybody else. So we had just kind of had to take the 10 and move on. We're locked in at 3% going forward. Student specific transportation, it's high volume, high cost. Utilities, we saw 18% increase last year, and that was with us pre-buying all of our energy to not see the increase that I saw at my house. And we still saw an 18%. So I just kind of wanted to show some of the reasons that you're seeing those massive increases year over year. So the picture at the bottom, we'll start there. I like this graphic in this page. They tuck it in like the page 25 of the 25-page detail, but it shows in the black line, this is what the prior forecast thought your cash balance was going to look like. Excuse me, the dash line. The black line is, okay, what's your cash balance look like now year by year? And I like it because the shape is basically the exact same, and they're almost on top of each other, which means we're predicting our future very well and predicting the trend very well. Obviously, nobody likes when the lines get down in the yellow and the red, but at least we can see it coming. So some of the district initiatives, continuous assessment of revenues and expenses. We're always looking at ways to save money or generate revenue. Ohio Department Education and Workforce Spending Plan. If you guys remember back in 2022, we had to submit a document to the state that basically said, you guys are running out of money. What's your plan? I expect to be getting an email in the next month that says, hey guys, you're running out of money. What's your plan? So that'll involve more conversations with the Board of Education and also our community long-term planning group. We have a section on the website that talks about that group, and we had already planned to bring it back, for lack of a better term, in 2024. So by the end of the year, we'll have a date on the calendar to bring that group back together to go a little bit more in depth than this, kind of find a happy medium of this presentation, the 25 pages that group of community members can react to. And then also state funding. We have the new state budget next July 1. So I've been actively working with the Warren County ESC and then area treasurers on what's our plan, what's our story. When we talk to legislators and we ask community members to be active, what's attainable goals and what's our story of why we need any assistance they're willing to give. Because you saw a few slides back, our state revenues are actually going to go down, which is it's a little crazy, but so that's it. Entertain any questions. As I said, no, you guys have had kind of the guts of all of that for a week now. But I just did at least want to run through and kind of hit the highlights.
Any questions for Mr. Morrow? Thank you for highlighting the areas of efficiency, though. That speaks to, I think, what Charlie was talking about with our cost in the new building. Every little bit makes a difference in lieu of our cash position. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And that was requested by the board because it's the board's expectation of us that we're doing these things and also your expectation of us that you can see easy to access that, yeah, you guys are doing these things and that the community can see anytime that they have a question for you or for us. Yeah, it's out there.
I think just from having Mr. Nolan here back earlier this school year, now looking at the 5-year forecast, it's really, he explained a lot of it, and you're just re-emphasizing that same information that we're kind of a school district in that cycle where we have a levy trying to get more money from the state to maybe make it last a little bit longer, but we're back in still the same cycle that this district's been in for quite a number of years.
I think he phrased it appropriately that this is what the state wanted of a district like Kings. It's unfortunate for us and our local or our community, but that was their plan when they made the whole state funding formula was pass levies. If you need the revenue, it's unfortunate, but he phrased it a little bit different. But the way he said it was, I think, pretty on point and pretty eloquent, really. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. And a $300 million increase in property valuation changes nothing for the school and for our community in terms of what they pay and then what the district receives in income. So that's amazing. Any more questions for Mr. Morrow? No. With that, may I have a motion to approve items 1 through 5?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda are the approval items for the superintendent. Looks like we have the one item for the Columbia edition. Mr. Sears, did you have anything further?
No, this is Mr. Janigan outlined this a little bit earlier, but this is the phase submission resolution with OFCC. Basically, the board is approving this evening, and we kind of explained that a little bit last week in our Columbia presentation. Just approving that we are tracking on the proper timeline and expectations with OFCC for the Columbia project. So.
And just to restate, since some people didn't watch last week's meeting, we are on budget on the Columbia project.
That's correct. Yes, we are on budget. This meets budget expectations set forth by the board. That allows us to this is a step in the process, sort of unrelated to the budget, but allows the next phases of the budget and some of those bid packages to go out will be within the expected budget. So that's correct.
Thank you for saying that, Mrs. Groff, for asking that question. I think that's important. To have a variance of 2% between our two companies and to be on budget, this speaks to the incredible job administration's doing, CAT team's doing, our ownership reps are doing to make sure that we stay on budget and on time, Mrs. Phillips. So thank you for raising that point, Mrs. Groff. Did we have any other questions for Mr. Sears? With that, may I have a motion to approve the item for the superintendent this evening?
I'll make
Nope, you go.
the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. Next on the consent agenda are the approval items for the assistant superintendent and business manager. Did we have any, Mr. Lucky, did you have anything to add this evening? Or-
Nothing to
All
add.
right. We have any questions for Mr. Lucky? Gets all of Mr. Spinner's questions? No? With that, may I have a motion to approve the assistant superintendent items regarding HR and business?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl.
Yes.
Next on the consent agenda are the approval items for the assistant superintendent regarding the educational programs. Mrs. Martin, Mr. Freeman, anything to add this evening? All right, any questions? Okay, and so with that, may I have a motion to approve this item? Oh, have any?
Nothing to vote on.
You're in a rhythm.
I was going. Did you see me? That's why Mrs. Martin looked at me like that. Like, what are you doing? Sorry. My apologies. So there are no items under the approval items for the assistant superintendent on the consent agenda. Did we have any items to be presented by the board this evening? All right. And so next on the agenda are the legislative updates from Mr. Skrull.
Yeah, I just have one item to call out. On the file, there's several items, legislation's back. So they've been very busy the past couple days, couple weeks. But there are a lot of new bills that have been introduced. You can read through those, but I did want to pass along one. Senate Bill 104 has been sent to Governor DeWine for his signature. This is addressing College Credit Plus and also I'm sure we've all heard in the media about the bathroom bill. So this has been approved and it is now on to Governor DeWine for his signature. And I'm sure over the next couple meetings, we'll have more that are going, seeing how active they've been, but just one to report out this month.
Any questions for Mr. Skrull? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Next on the agenda is the Student Achievement Liaison Update. Mrs. Phillips?
Most of the things have already been discussed this evening, which is really nice, but there are a couple that I picked out that I thought, oh, maybe this one won't be there. This is the Kings High School biomed group, and they visited Beacon Orthopedics, and I think just what the teacher stated was really very nice. This was an incredible hands-on experience and excellent career advice for our students. So that's very nice. And this one was presented a couple of different times earlier this evening, just with the high school student employability class going to the city of Cincinnati, and just a few extra pictures in there. And then Veterans Day. One of the things that I will say that was unfortunately, I was in Columbus at a meeting, but from the videos that were posted online and all of the pictures, every building had some type of special celebration for our veterans. One of the things that I noticed, many of our students who have since graduated high school, graduated from college, came back to just walk in our parade and show how much the military service meant to them. So definitely our community is very vested in all of our veterans and all of the students that are securing that type of employment through the military. And just a little check on the firecracker schedule. Let me read just a couple of places that they're going. They're going to go see the Chicago Bulls and give a wonderful firecracker welcome. Northern Kentucky University, Eastern Kentucky, University of Kentucky, Xavier, Miami, Purdue Boilermakers.
Go.
And
That's the one we need to be at.
UC, plus all of the high schools in the area. I think when you look at that list of high schools, and certainly for any parent or community member that doesn't have a child in the firecrackers, there's still many opportunities around the city and surrounding areas to go see them. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
December the 8th, the sneak peek at South Lebanon. Students in room 120 at KME have been learning about voting, just like we were all doing way back earlier in November. Today or that day, they put on a little bit of, we've talked about it in class, now let's actually do it. And so knowing that it's an elementary building, they were voting on which book did you like best? Pig the Pug or Pete the Cat? And Pete the Cat was the winner.
Classic.
And then we talked about the National Art Honor Society and the paint your own pottery, but just wanted to point out, look at the pictures at the bottom, which shows all of the finished glazed pottery. Bow Wow Bakery is a class-run business at the high school and offers students with disabilities the opportunity to both work independently and together as a team to create healthy dog bones, treats for dogs, to sell to the staff, families, and friends. And the week that Mrs. Gold posted this in the night news, the students had made 80 bags. The cost of the dog bones, $3 a bag. And that contains about 16 dog treats or 2 for $5. And so if you're thinking about, what can I get my dog for Christmas? You might want to contact the Bow Wow Bakery. And then we talked about the junior high Project Lead the Way when they went to Kings Island and all of the different things that they were able to do when you look behind the operation to see what really goes into some of that engineering work. And then Mrs. Stevens' student said the superintendent is this really cool guy. And so the class working with PBIS, which we heard about from the junior high tonight, but at the elementary level too. So at the elementary level, it looks a little bit different as we're helping and showing students how they should help each other. I remember when I was in elementary school, 3rd grade, we used to yell at each other, "Don't cut, that's not nice." Now they're learning that it's okay to say, "Do you want to get in line in front of me? I don't mind." And so then if they're caught doing something that as adults, we hope all of our adult friends do and have to teach the children how to do that. And so then they're given a token or something that could be a marble in a jar that they're collecting. And when they get so many, they're able to ask, "Oh, this is our reward that we want." And it, Mr. Sears has been invited twice already this year.
Twice.
Wow.
The reward for this was extra recess.
Oh,
I can't mess up extra recess. So yeah, we had a great time.
okay. So that was in and around the district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Phillips.
Always a great way to bookend the meetings with the raise and then with the student achievement liaison update as always.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Great.
And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I will make that motion.
I will second the motion, Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Great evening, everyone.